When my daughter-in-law told me to leave, I smiled instead of crying. I still remember the sound of her voice, steady, polite, but cold enough to make my heart tremble. She stood in the doorway, her hands folded neatly in front of her, and said, "Amy, maybe it's time you stay with your sister for a while." My son was right behind her, eyes lowered, saying nothing. That silence hurt more than her words. I had lived in that house for over 30 years. I'd watched my son grow from a shy boy who used to cling to my scarf into a man I was so proud of. I'd never imagined a day would come when I'd feel like a guest in my own home. That evening, I packed my small suitcase. I folded my shawl, the one my late husband had bought me, and placed it on top. Every sound in that room, the zipper closing, the cupboard door creaking, felt like a goodbye. I didn't argue. I didn't ask why. I just looked at my son and said softly, "Take care of yourself, Beta." He nodded but didn't meet my eyes. That was the moment I realized. Love can stay silent, but silence can also end love. As the car drove away, I kept my eyes on the window. The house grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared behind the trees. My heart whispered, "This is not the way I raised him." But sometimes even the purest love gets tested. Sometimes the people we trust most forget who stood beside them when they had nothing. And sometimes, a mother learns that love isn't always returned in the way she gave it. That day marked the end of one chapter of my life, and the beginning of a story I never thought I'd tell. My name is Salma, and for most of my life, I believed I was blessed. Not because I had everything I wanted, but because I had what mattered most, my family. My husband, Rahim, was a schoolteacher. A quiet man, humble and kind. He believed in honesty, in hard work, and in keeping peace within the home. We didn't have much money, but our house was filled with warmth, the kind that doesn't come from wealth, but from love and understanding. We had one son, Imran. From the day he was born, he became the center of my world. I still remember holding him for the first time, his tiny fingers wrapping around mine, and I whispered, "You are my everything." And truly he was. When Rahim passed away, Imran was only 10. I remember sitting in the corner of our small living room that night, unable to cry, because I knew I had to be strong. Imran sat beside me, his little head resting on my arm. He didn't understand what had happened, not fully, but I could feel his silent fear. I promised myself that day, I will give him both parents' love. From that day on, my life revolved around Imran. I took sewing work from home. I stitched clothes for neighbors, sometimes late into the night, just to make sure he had enough for school books, good shoes, and a warm meal every day. He was a bright boy, gentle, thoughtful, the kind who'd notice when I was tired and quietly bring me a glass of water. When he got older, he used to tell me, "Amy, one day I'll buy you a big house. You won't have to sew a single shirt again." I'd smile and say, "I don't want a big house, Beta. I just want you to be happy." And I meant it. Because for me, his happiness was my own. Years passed. I watched him finish college, get his first job, and slowly build a life. I was proud, oh so proud. I'd often thank God for giving me a son who hadn't forgotten where he came from. He would still come home every evening, sit beside me with his cup of tea, and ask about my day. Those were the moments I lived for. Then one afternoon he came home looking nervous. The way he used to look as a child when he'd broken something but didn't know how to tell me. "Amy," he said, sitting beside me, "there's someone I want you to meet." I looked at him. His eyes had that same sparkle, the kind I hadn't seen in a while. He told me about her, Aisha, his colleague from work. "Smart, kind, respectful," he said. As he spoke, I saw the way his face softened when he said her name, and I knew it was serious. My heart felt two things at once, joy and fear. Joy, because I wanted him to have someone to share his life with. Fear, because deep down I wondered, would there still be room for me in his world once he built a new one? But I pushed that thought away. Love doesn't shrink when shared, I told myself. It grows. A few weeks later, I met Aisha. She came to our home, dressed modestly with a polite smile. She greeted me with respect. "Assalamu alaikum, auntie." Her voice was soft, her tone careful. I watched her help me set the table, pour tea, and make light conversation. She was educated, confident, and spoke with a calm grace. I liked her. I truly did. After she left, I turned to Imran and said, "She seems like a good girl." The way his face lit up made my heart melt. He hugged me tightly and said, "Thank you, Amy. That means everything." The wedding was simple but beautiful. We held it at the community hall, with family and friends gathered. I remember watching my son place the ring on her finger, my heart full of prayers. I whispered quietly to myself, "May she love him as much as I do." When they returned from their honeymoon, Aisha moved into our home. It was strange at first, having another woman in the house. I had lived alone with Imran for so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like to share space, to hear someone else's footsteps in the kitchen, to see someone rearranging the living room cushions. But I tried my best. I wanted her to feel at home, to know that she was welcome. In those early days, we shared small, happy moments. She would come sit with me in the kitchen while I cooked, asking about recipes, smiling shyly when I teased her about her salt measurements. We'd laugh over little things. How Imran always forgot where he put his socks, or how he'd eat too fast when he was hungry. Sometimes she'd even bring me tea without me asking. I appreciated that. Small gestures mean a lot to a mother. For a while, everything seemed perfect. I often thought, this is what peace feels like. But life, I've learned, has a way of changing quietly. It doesn't always come with thunder or shouting. Sometimes, it shifts in whispers, in the tone of a voice, in the way eyes avoid yours, in the space between two people sitting at the same table. And before you realize it, something fragile has already begun to crack.